I need you to leave my son alone." The words hit Clara like ice water. Across the marble table sat Victoria Donovan, billionaire matriarch, corporate legend, and apparently the mother of the man Clara had been falling for. The same man who'd lied about being a hotel manager when he actually owned the entire damn building. Before we begin, let me tell you what happens when a struggling translator falls for a secret billionaire at a Boston wedding. Spoiler, it doesn't end with champagne and roses. If you want to know how badly this could have gone wrong, and why it almost did, stay until the end. Drop a like and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let's go back to where it started. The thing about weddings is they're designed to make you feel like shit if you're there alone. Clara Whitmore had known this going in, but she'd come anyway because her sister Emma had begged her, and because saying no would have required explaining why she couldn't handle watching another couple promise forever when her own engagement had imploded 6 months ago in a Target parking lot. Marcus had looked her dead in the eye between the grocery pickup and the cart return and said, "I can't do this anymore." Like their 3-year relationship was a gym membership he'd forgotten to cancel. So here she sat, 30 years old, wearing a dress she'd bought on sale 2 years ago for a different wedding, nursing her third glass of cheap Merlot at table 14 while everyone else swayed on the dance floor to some Maroon 5 song that was probably romantic if you weren't dead inside. The chair to her left was empty. That one was for Marcus, obviously. The RSVP had gone in months before the breakup, back when she'd actually believed in things like planning ahead and joint futures. The chair to her right was also empty, but that one was different. That one was supposed to stay empty. That one belonged to her father, who died when she was 19, and whose favorite song, a Hungarian lullaby he used to hum while cooking Sunday dinners, had just started playing through the ballroom speakers for reasons Clara couldn't begin to understand. She pressed her palm flat against the white tablecloth and tried very hard not to cry at her sister's wedding reception. "You good?" Emma appeared beside her, slightly drunk, definitely glowing, her veil askew in that way that somehow made her look more beautiful. "You've been sitting here for like 40 minutes. "I'm great," Clara lied, "just resting my feet." "You haven't danced once. These shoes are killing me." Emma crouched down, which was impressive considering the dress. "Claire, you're allowed to leave early. I won't be mad." "I'm not leaving." "You look miserable." "I'm not miserable. I'm just—" Clara stopped because her throat was doing that thing where it closed up right before actual tears happened, and she absolutely could not fall apart at table 14 in front of 200 wedding guests. "I'm fine. Go dance with your husband. That's literally your only job tonight." Emma squeezed her hand. "I love you. You know that, right?" "I know. Now go before he thinks you're hiding in the bathroom again." Emma left, and Clara went back to staring at the empty chairs and pretending the lullaby wasn't destroying her from the inside out. That's when she noticed him. Tall, dark suit, no tie. Standing near the edge of the dance floor with his hands in his pockets, watching the room like he was trying to figure out if he was supposed to be there. He wasn't dancing either, which made him either a fellow miserable guest or hotel staff doing a terrible job of blending in. He was also staring directly at her. Clara looked away. Looked back. He was still staring. Great. Perfect. Exactly what I need right now. She turned her attention to her phone, scrolling through nothing, hoping he'd take the hint. When she glanced up again, he was walking toward her. No, absolutely not. He stopped beside her table. Up close, he was even worse. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that looked like they'd forgotten how to smile. The kind of face that definitely belonged to someone who worked out and owned multiple watches. Clara had spent most of her 20s dating guys like this, and they all had the same story. Great at dinner conversations, terrible at showing up when things got hard. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. "Actually, I do." He blinked. "Oh, okay." "I'm not trying to be rude," Clara said, which was partially true. "I'm just not really in a talking mood." "I wasn't planning on talking." "Then what were you planning on doing?" He gestured toward the empty chair that had been Marcus's. "Just sitting." Claire stared at him. "You want to sit at my table, in silence, if that's all right?" "Why?" "You look like you could use the company." "I really can't." "Okay." He didn't move. "Can I at least ask you to dance?" "Absolutely not." "Fair enough." And then, because apparently the universe had decided Clara's night needed to get weirder, he pulled out the chair and sat down anyway. Clara's jaw dropped. I literally just said no. You said no to dancing. You didn't say no to sitting. I said I didn't want company. You said you couldn't use it. That's different. He leaned back in the chair, completely relaxed, like crashing someone's pity party was a normal Saturday night activity. I'm Ethan. Clara should have told him to leave, should have flagged down Emma or a groomsman, or literally anyone with the authority to remove an unwanted guest from table 14. Instead, she heard herself say, Clara. Nice to meet you, Clara. Is it, though? The corner of his mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. Jury's still out. They sat there in silence while the lullaby played and couples swayed and Clara tried to figure out what the hell was happening. Ethan didn't pull out his phone, didn't try to make small talk, didn't ask why she was sitting alone or comment on the music or do any of the normal things people did when they were trying to fill uncomfortable silence. He just sat there. It was possibly the strangest thing anyone had ever done for her. You're not a wedding guest, Clara said finally. What makes you say that? You're wearing a suit but no boutonniere. You're not dancing, and you're sitting with a stranger instead of your date. Maybe I don't have a date. Everyone has a date at weddings. It's like an unwritten rule. Ethan tilted his head. You don't. That's different. How? Because I'm here for my sister. You're here for... Clara stopped. Wait, why are you here? I work here. At the hotel? Yeah. Clara looked around the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Boston Harbor. The Donovan Lansing Hotel was one of those places that charged more for a weekend stay than Clara made in a month. Doing what? Maintenance, security, whatever needs doing. He shrugged. Tonight I'm mostly just making sure nobody steals the centerpieces. Is that a real problem? You'd be surprised. Clara found herself almost smiling, which felt like a betrayal of her current emotional state. So you just crash weddings as part of your job? Only the sad ones. Excuse me? You've been sitting here alone for 45 minutes, Ethan said. The bride keeps checking on you. You haven't touched your food. And when that song started playing, he nodded toward the speakers. You looked like someone had punched you in the chest. Clara's breath caught. You were watching me. I was doing my job. Your job is to watch depressed wedding guests? My job is to notice when someone might need help. I don't need help. Okay. I'm serious. I'm fine. I believe you. But he didn't move, didn't leave, just kept sitting there like he had all the time in the world and nowhere better to be. The lullaby ended. A new song started, something upbeat and forgettable. Emma was spinning on the dance floor, her dress a blur of white silk, her new husband laughing as she nearly took out a groomsman with her veil. Clara's chest ached, watching them. My dad used to hum that song, she said quietly. The one that just played. It's this old Hungarian lullaby. I don't even know what it's called, but he'd hum it every Sunday while he made dinner. Goulash, usually. Sometimes paprikash. She stopped, embarrassed. Sorry, you don't need to know that. I don't mind. Still, it's weird. I'm being weird. You're being human. Ethan leaned forward, elbows on the table. My wife used to sing to our daughter every night before bed. Same song, every time. After she died, I couldn't listen to it for 2 years without completely losing it. Clara turned to look at him, really look at him. The dark circles under his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the wedding ring that wasn't there anymore, but you could tell used to be from the slight indentation on his finger. I'm sorry, she said. Don't be, it was 5 years ago. That doesn't make it easier. No, Ethan agreed. It doesn't. They sat there while the reception continued around them. Laughter and music and the clink of champagne glasses. Clara had spent the last 6 months convinced she was the only person in the world who understood what it felt like to sit in a room full of happy people and feel completely, utterly alone. Turned out she was wrong. Your daughter, Clara said. How old is she? 7. Her name's Lily. That's a pretty name. She's a pretty kid. Ethan pulled out his phone, scrolled for a second, then turned the screen toward Clara. A little girl with dark curls and missing front teeth grinned at the camera, holding up a drawing of what might have been a cat or possibly a deformed horse. She's obsessed with art right now. Our apartment looks like a preschool exploded. Clara smiled, a real one this time. She looks happy. She is. Most days. Ethan pocketed his phone. The hard part is knowing she doesn't remember her mom. Sometimes I'll tell her stories, show her pictures, but it's like talking about a stranger. She was 2 when it happened. That's awful. Yeah. Ethan looked out at the dance floor. But she's got me, and I've got her. We figure it out. Clara wanted to ask what had happened. Car accident, illness, something else. But she didn't. Some stories weren't meant to be told to strangers at weddings, even strangers who sat with you during sad Hungarian lullabies. The guy in the empty chair, Ethan said. What happened there? How do you know there was a guy? Place setting for 2. You keep looking at the chair like you're mad at it. Clara laughed, sharp and bitter. His name was Marcus. We were together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. Then one day he decided he needed space to find himself, which is code for, I met someone else, but I'm too much of a coward to admit it. That's shitty. Yeah, well, turns out I'm really good at picking shitty men. Clara finished her wine. He's engaged now, by the way, to the girl he definitely wasn't seeing while we were together. They're getting married in October at some vineyard in Napa. I know this because Emma accidentally showed me the Instagram announcement last month and then cried about it for an hour. Your sister sounds nice. She is. Too nice. She wanted to uninvite him from her wedding, but I told her not to. It's not her fault my relationship imploded. Still, Ethan said, that takes guts. Showing up here knowing he might be around. Clara shrugged. He didn't come. Sent a card and a blender. Even worse. Right? Clara felt the wine hitting her now, warm and slightly dangerous. A blender. Like my sister doesn't already own a blender. Like anyone needs 2 blenders. Maybe she's really into smoothies. Nobody's that into smoothies. Ethan almost smiled again. Fair point. Emma appeared out of nowhere, slightly more drunk than before. Claire, you have to come dance. Brad's college roommate is doing the worm and it's incredible. I'm good here. Come on. Emma stopped, noticing Ethan. Oh, hi. I'm Emma, the bride. Ethan, I work here. Oh. Emma's eyes went wide. Is everything okay? Did someone break something? Everything's fine, Ethan said smoothly. Just making sure your guests are taken care of. Well, Clara definitely needs taking care of. Emma grabbed her sister's hand. She's been sitting here all night like a sad ghost. I'm not a ghost. You're wearing gray to a wedding. You're definitely a ghost. Clara looked down at her dress. It's charcoal. That's completely different. It's depressing. You said I could wear whatever I wanted. I was being supportive. I didn't think you'd actually show up looking like you were attending a funeral. Ethan cleared his throat. I think she looks nice. Both sisters turned to stare at him. I mean, he shifted in his chair. The dress is fine, professional, elegant. Emma's face broke into a smile that Clara knew meant trouble. Oh my God, are you two? No, Clara said quickly. We're not. He was just sitting here, being polite. Very polite, Emma said, her smile widening. Interesting. Emma, I'm going back to my husband now. You two enjoy your polite sitting. She swept away in a cloud of tulle and thinly veiled matchmaking intentions. Clara dropped her head into her hands. I'm so sorry. For what? My sister, she means well, but she's also convinced that I need to be in a relationship to be happy, which is insane because I've been in multiple relationships and they've all made me miserable. Maybe you were with the wrong people. Or maybe I'm the wrong person. Clara looked up. Sorry, that was dark. I've heard darker. Still, you came over here to do your job and now you're stuck listening to me complain about my ex and my sister and my dead father's lullaby. This is probably not how you wanted to spend your Saturday night. Ethan met her eyes. It's not the worst Saturday I've had. Something in the way he said it made Clara's chest tighten. Your daughter, she said. Where is she tonight? With my mother. They're having a sleepover, which means Lily's probably convinced her to watch Frozen for the 1000th time. He checked his watch. I should actually call soon. Make sure bedtime's happening. Right. Of course. Clara stood up, suddenly aware of how long they'd been sitting there. I should let you get back to work anyway. You don't have to leave. I'm not leaving. I need some air. She grabbed her purse and headed for the balcony doors before Ethan could say anything else. The night air hit her like a slap, cold and sharp and exactly what she needed. She gripped the railing and stared out at Boston Harbor, the water black and glittering under the city lights. What the hell was that? She'd just spent an hour talking to a complete stranger, a hotel employee, a widower with a 7-year-old daughter and kind eyes, and the ability to sit in silence without making it weird. And for the first time since Marcus had destroyed her life in a Target parking lot, Clara had felt something other than numb. She heard the balcony door open behind her. "I lied," Ethan said. Clara turned around. "About what?" "Earlier, when I said I work in maintenance and security." He walked toward her, hands still in his pockets. "I do oversee those things, but that's not my primary job." "Okay?" "I manage the hotel, the operations, the staff, the bookings, all of it." Clara frowned. "So you're like the general manager?" "Something like that." "Why didn't you just say that?" Ethan stopped a few feet away from her. "Because when I tell people what I do, they start treating me differently, and I like the way you were treating me." "Like a random guy crashing a wedding?" "Like a person." He looked out at the harbor. "Most people hear hotel management, and they either want something from me or they assume I'm some corporate asshole who doesn't care about anything except profit margins." "Are you?" "Some days." He turned back to her. "But not tonight." Claire didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know what to do with the way he was looking at her, like she was a problem he was trying to solve, or maybe a question he didn't know how to ask. "I should go," she said finally. "Okay. I mean it this time." "I know." But neither of them moved. "Thank you," Clara said, "for sitting with me. You didn't have to do that." "I wanted to." "Why?" Ethan hesitated. "Because you look the way I feel most days, and I thought maybe, I don't know, maybe it would help, both of us." Clara's throat tightened. "Did it?" "Yeah," Ethan said quietly. "It did." They stood there on the balcony while the reception continued inside, music and laughter, and the sound of 200 people celebrating love and forever, and all the things Clara had stopped believing in. "I'm not looking for anything," she said. "Just so you know. I'm barely holding my life together as it is." "Okay?" "I'm serious. I'm a mess. I cry during commercials. I eat cereal for dinner. I haven't written anything decent in 6 months." "What do you write?" "Translations. Literary translations. Hungarian to English, mostly. Poetry, essays, that kind of thing. It doesn't pay well and nobody reads it, but it's what I love." She laughed. "Or what I used to love. Now it just feels like another thing I'm failing at." "You're not failing. You don't know that. I know you showed up to your sister's wedding even though your ex might be here. I know you're still wearing the dress even though your sister called it depressing. And I know you sat through that lullaby without leaving, which means you're a lot stronger than you think." Clara felt tears burning behind her eyes. "You don't know me." "Not yet," Ethan said. "But I'd like to." And there it was, the question she'd been waiting for, the moment where everything could either move forward or fall apart. Clara took a breath. "I'm leaving in 5 minutes. I'm going to say goodbye to Emma, and then I'm getting in an Uber. And I'm going home to my terrible apartment where the heat doesn't work, and my neighbor plays terrible music until 2 a.m. "Okay. And you're going to go back inside and do your job and call your daughter and forget this conversation ever happened. Is that what you want?" "I don't know what I want." Clara gripped the railing harder. "But I know I can't handle getting hurt again, and you seem like the kind of guy who could really hurt me." Ethan stepped closer, not touching, but close enough that Clara could smell his cologne, something expensive and understated. "I'm not going to hurt you." "You can't promise that." "No," he agreed, "but I can promise I won't lie to you, and I won't disappear. And if you give me your number, I'll actually use it." Clara looked up at him. "That's a pretty low bar." "And yet most guys can't clear it." She almost laughed. Almost. "What's your last name?" she asked. "Donovan. Ethan Donovan." Clara's heart stopped. "Donovan. As in the Donovan Lansing Hotel. As in the Donovan Hospitality Group. As in the family that owned half the luxury properties in New England and had their name on hospital wings and museum galleries." "You said you managed the hotel," Clara said slowly. I do. Because you own it. Ethan's jaw tightened. My family owns it. That's not the same thing as working in maintenance. I know. You lied to me. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. Clara stepped back. That's literally the definition of lying. Clara, no, don't. She grabbed her purse. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Guys like you always do this. You hide who you are until someone gets attached, and then you drop the truth like a bomb and act surprised when they're pissed. I wasn't hiding it. You let me think you were some regular guy doing a regular job. I am a regular guy. You're a Donovan, Clara laughed, sharp and bitter. Your family probably has more money than everyone at this wedding combined. That doesn't change who I am. It changes everything. She pushed past him toward the balcony door. Have a nice life, Ethan. She made it 3 steps before his voice stopped her. Your father's lullaby, he said. It's called Aluznak Abuvash Hegek. The Magic Mountains are sleeping. Bartók wrote it in 1908. There are only 3 recordings of the original arrangement, and the best one was performed in Budapest in 1967 by a pianist named András Schiff. Clara froze. You said you didn't know what it was called, Ethan continued, so I looked it up while you were talking to your sister. Thought you might want to know. She turned around slowly. He was still standing by the railing, hands in his pockets, looking like a man who'd just played his last card and wasn't sure if it would be enough. Why would you do that? Clara asked. Because you looked happy when you talked about your father, and I wanted to give you something that might make you feel that way again. Clara's vision blurred. That's not fair. I know. You can't say things like that and expect me to... She stopped, wiping her eyes. I'm still leaving. Okay. But... Clara pulled out her phone with shaking hands. If you want to text me the name of that recording, I wouldn't hate it. Ethan's face softened. Yeah? Don't make me regret this. I won't. Clara rattled off her number. Ethan typed it into his phone, then looked up at her. Can I ask you something? Maybe. If I hadn't told you my last name, would you have given me your number anyway? Clara thought about it, about the way he'd sat with her in silence, about the lullaby and the daughter, and the fact that he'd noticed she was hurting and decided to do something about it instead of just walking past. Yeah, she said finally. I think I would have. Ethan smiled, a real one this time. Good to know. Clara left before she could change her mind. She said goodbye to Emma, who was too drunk to ask questions. She ordered an Uber. She rode home in silence, staring at her phone and waiting for a text that might not come. It came at 11:47 p.m. Unknown number. This is Ethan. Here's the recording. Link. Hope you like it. Clara clicked the link. Bartók's lullaby filled her terrible apartment with its haunting, beautiful melody. She lay on her bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the same song her father had hummed 20 years ago in a kitchen that didn't exist anymore. And for the first time in 6 months, she let herself cry. Not because she was sad, but because someone had finally seen her, really seen her. And instead of running away, he'd sat down beside her and stayed. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Also, just so you know, I meant what I said. I'd really like to get to know you. No pressure. Just, if you're interested, I make pretty good coffee, and I promise not to lie about who I am again. Clara saved his number, stared at the message for a full minute, then typed, Clara, I like my coffee black. No sugar. Ethan, noted. How's Tuesday? Clara, Tuesday works. Ethan, it's a date. Clara set her phone down and closed her eyes. Maybe she was making a mistake. Maybe this would blow up in her face like every other relationship she'd tried to build. Maybe Ethan Donovan was just another rich guy who'd get bored the second things got hard. But maybe, just maybe, he was different. And maybe that was worth the risk. Tuesday came faster than Clara expected, which meant she spent Monday night spiraling in her apartment, trying on 6 different outfits before settling on jeans and a sweater that didn't scream, I'm trying too hard, or I've completely given up on life. The coffee shop Ethan had suggested was in Beacon Hill, which should have been Clara's first clue that this wasn't going to be a normal date. Normal people didn't suggest places with exposed brick walls and imported espresso machines that probably cost more than her rent. She arrived 10 minutes early because punctuality was one of the few things she could still control in her increasingly chaotic life. Ethan was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee and a nervous expression that made him look younger than he had at the wedding. "You're early," Clara said, sliding into the chair across from him. "So are you." "I didn't want to be late." "Neither did I." Ethan pushed one of the cups toward her. Black. No sugar. Clara picked it up, took a sip. It was perfect, rich and bitter and exactly what she needed. "You remembered." "I told you I would." They sat there for a moment, both clearly unsure how to start a conversation without the convenient excuse of a wedding reception or a balcony or the buffer of 200 other people. "So," Clara said finally, "do you do this a lot? Drink coffee? Ask out sad women at weddings?" Ethan's mouth twitched. "You're actually the first. I find that hard to believe." "Why?" "Because you're—" Clara gestured vaguely at him. You. "I have no idea what that means." "It means you're attractive and rich, and you probably have women throwing themselves at you constantly." Ethan looked genuinely uncomfortable. "That's not— I'm not fishing for compliments," Clara said quickly. "I'm just trying to figure out why you're here, with me, when you could literally be anywhere else with anyone else. Maybe I don't want to be anywhere else." "You don't even know me." "I know you translate Hungarian poetry. I know you cry during commercials. I know you showed up to your sister's wedding even though your ex might have been there." Ethan leaned forward. "And I know you're scared I'm going to hurt you, which means you've been hurt before, which means you're still willing to take a chance despite that. That takes guts." Clara felt her throat tighten. "Or stupidity." "I prefer guts." She took another sip of coffee to buy herself time. This was the part where she usually sabotaged things, made a joke, changed the subject, found an excuse to leave before anything real could happen. But something about the way Ethan was looking at her made it harder to run. "I Googled you," she admitted. "Yeah?" "After the wedding, I typed in Ethan Donovan Boston and spent 2 hours falling down a rabbit hole of business articles and society page photos. Find anything interesting?" "Depends on your definition of interesting." Clara set down her cup. "You inherited the company when you were 27. Your father died of a heart attack during a board meeting. Your wife died 2 years later in a car accident on the Mass Pike. You've been raising your daughter alone ever since while simultaneously running a multi-million-dollar hotel empire." Ethan's expression didn't change. "That about covers it. The articles made you sound like some kind of tragic hero. The young widower who turned grief into success." "The articles are bullshit." "Are they?" "Most days I feel like I'm barely keeping my head above water," Ethan said flatly. "The company's a mess. The board thinks I'm too young to know what I'm doing. My mother thinks I should remarry for Lily's sake. And every morning I wake up and wonder if today's the day I finally screw everything up beyond repair." Clara blinked. "That wasn't in any of the articles." "Yeah, well, people don't want to read about the reality. They want the sanitized version where everything works out and nobody has panic attacks in their office at 2 a.m. "Do you? Have panic attacks?" "Used to. Got better at managing them." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Sorry, that was probably too much information for a first date." "This is a date, isn't it?" Clara felt her face heat. "I don't know. You said coffee. That could mean anything." "It means I wanted to see you again without the excuse of a wedding reception." Ethan met her eyes. "And if you want to call it something else, that's fine. But I'd like to think we're at least trying here." "Trying what?" "To figure out if this—" He gestured between them. "Whatever this is worth pursuing." Clara's heart was doing something complicated in her chest. "And if it's not?" "Then we finish our coffee and go our separate ways. No hard feelings. You make it sound simple. It doesn't have to be complicated." "Everything's complicated," Clara said. "You have a daughter. I can barely take care of myself. You run a company. I work freelance from my apartment in my pajamas. You're—" She stopped. "I'm what?" "Out of my league." Ethan stared at her like she'd just spoken a foreign language. "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." "Excuse me?" "Clara, you speak 3 languages. You translate poetry that most people can't even read in English. You showed up to your sister's wedding alone because you didn't want to ruin her day with your problems." He leaned back in his chair. "If anything, I'm out of your league. Now you're just being nice. I'm being honest. There's a difference. Clara wanted to argue, but the way he was looking at her made it impossible. Like he actually believed what he was saying. Like he saw something in her that she'd stopped seeing in herself months ago. Tell me about your daughter, she said, changing the subject before she did something stupid like cry in a coffee shop. Ethan's entire face softened. What do you want to know? What's she like? Smart, stubborn, obsessed with drawing and anything that sparkles. He pulled out his phone, scrolled for a second, then showed Clara a new photo. Lily was wearing a princess costume that looked homemade, a crooked crown on her head, holding a wooden sword. She made that costume herself, insisted she needed to be a warrior princess, not a regular princess. Clara smiled. I like her already. She's a handful, especially lately. How so? Ethan pocketed his phone. She's been asking about her mom more. Wants to know what she was like, why she's not here, if she would have liked the things Lily likes now. He paused. I do my best, but some days I feel like I'm failing her. Like she deserves a mother who can actually answer those questions, instead of a dad who's just guessing. You're not failing her. You don't know that. I know you carried her picture to a stranger's wedding and lit up when you talked about her. I know you're raising her alone while running a company and still managing to show up for coffee with a mess of a translator who cries during commercials. Clara reached across the table, stopped just short of touching his hand. That's not failing, that's surviving. Ethan looked down at her hand. You keep calling yourself a mess. Because I am. What if I don't see it that way? Then you're not paying attention. Or maybe I'm paying attention to different things. He finally closed the distance, his fingers brushing against hers. Like the way you noticed that lullaby at the wedding, or how you stood up for your sister even when it cost you, or the fact that you're here right now even though you're terrified. I'm not terrified. Your hand's shaking. Clara looked down. He was right. That could be the coffee. Could be, Ethan agreed, but I don't think it is. They sat there with their hands almost but not quite touching while the coffee shop buzzed around them. Clara knew she should pull away, should maintain some distance before this turned into something she couldn't control. But she didn't move. I have a lot of baggage, she said quietly, like an embarrassing amount. Everyone has baggage. Mine has baggage, Ethan smiled. I've got a dead wife, a company that's hemorrhaging money, a mother who's convinced I'm ruining my life, and a 7-year-old who asked me last week if I was sad because I never smile anymore. So trust me when I say I understand baggage. The company's losing money? That part wasn't in the articles? They made it sound like everything was great. Yeah, well, Ethan pulled his hand back, wrapped it around his coffee cup. The Boston location's fine, but we expanded too fast into New York and Chicago, and now we're bleeding cash trying to keep properties afloat that should have never been built in the first place. The board wants to sell. My mother wants to merge with another company. And I'm stuck trying to figure out how to save my father's legacy without destroying everything in the process. Clara absorbed this. Why are you telling me this? Because you asked, and because I'm tired of pretending everything's fine when it's not. That must be exhausting. You have no idea. Ethan finished his coffee. Sorry, this is probably not what you signed up for when you agreed to coffee. I didn't really know what I was signing up for. Fair point. Clara checked her phone. They'd been sitting there for almost an hour, and it had felt like 10 minutes. I should probably go. I have a translation due tomorrow, and I haven't even started. What are you translating? A collection of essays by a Hungarian writer, poetry criticism, mostly. It's dense and complicated, and my client keeps changing the deadline. Sounds frustrating. It is, but it pays rent, so... Clara stood up, slinging her bag over her shoulder. Thanks for the coffee. Ethan stood too. Can I see you again? I don't know if that's a good idea. Why not? Because... Clara stopped, trying to organize her thoughts into something coherent. Because you're dealing with a lot. And I'm dealing with a lot. And throwing two messy people together usually just creates a bigger mess. Or it creates something better. You're an optimist. I'm a realist, Ethan said. And realistically, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since Saturday. So if you're willing to take another chance, I'd really like to see where this goes. Clara should have said no. Should have walked away before she got attached to a man who had a complicated life and a daughter and baggage that probably outweighed her own. Instead, she heard herself say, I'm free Friday. Ethan's face broke into a genuine smile. Dinner? Nothing fancy. I can't afford fancy. I know a place. Casual. Good food. No dress code. Okay. Okay. Ethan pulled out his phone. Can I text you the address, Dem? Yeah. They stood there awkwardly for a second, neither quite sure how to end this. Clara settled for a small wave before heading toward the door. Clara, Ethan called after her. She turned around. For what it's worth, he said, I don't think you're a mess. I think you're someone who's been through hell and came out the other side still willing to try. That's pretty incredible. Clara felt her eyes burn. You barely know me. Then let me get to know you better. She didn't trust herself to respond, so she just nodded and left before the tears actually fell. The text came 3 hours later while she was elbow-deep in Hungarian poetry criticism and seriously considering throwing her laptop out the window. Ethan. Friday, 7 p.m., Trattoria di Luca in the North End. It's a hole in the wall, but they make the best carbonara you've ever had. Clara. How do you know I like carbonara? Ethan. I don't. But if you don't, we can order something else. That's how restaurants work. Clara. Smart ass. Ethan. You like it? Clara stared at her phone, fighting a smile. Clara. Maybe. Ethan. I'll take maybe. Friday arrived with the kind of cold rain that made Clara question every decision she'd ever made, including agreeing to dinner with a man she'd met less than a week ago. She changed outfits 4 times before settling on a dress that wasn't too formal, but also didn't look like she'd given up on life. The restaurant was exactly as advertised, tiny, crowded, and filled with the smell of garlic and fresh bread. Ethan was already there, sitting at a corner table, wearing jeans and a button-down that made him look less like a billionaire hotel owner and more like a normal person. You found it, he said as she sat down. Google Maps found it. I just followed directions. How's the translation coming? It's not. I spent 6 hours yesterday arguing with myself about the proper English equivalent for a Hungarian word that doesn't translate cleanly, and I still don't have an answer. What's the word? Bonnet. It means sadness, but also regret, but also a kind of deep longing that doesn't exist in English. So now I'm stuck trying to figure out if I should use 3 different words depending on context, or just pick one and hope the meaning comes through. Ethan nodded slowly. That sounds impossible. It is impossible. That's why I love it. Clara grabbed the menu. Also why I'm constantly broke and questioning my life choices. You could do something else. Like what? Corporate translation, technical documents, anything that pays better. I'd rather die, Clara said flatly. I spent 2 years doing medical translation, and I wanted to kill myself every single day. Give me impossible poetry over instruction manuals any day. The waiter appeared, an older Italian man who clearly knew Ethan. They exchanged pleasantries in what sounded like passable Italian before the waiter turned to Clara. For you, signorina? Clara glanced at the menu, overwhelmed. What do you recommend? The carbonara, Ethan and the waiter said in unison. Okay then. Carbonara. The waiter disappeared. Ethan poured them both water from the pitcher on the table. You speak Italian, Clara said. Enough to get by. I spent a semester in Rome during college. Of course you did. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, just, you're one of those people who's good at everything, aren't you? Ethan laughed. I'm definitely not good at everything. Name one thing you're bad at. Relationships. The word hung between them. That was honest, Clara said finally. You asked. Ethan leaned back in his chair. I was married for 3 years. 2 of those years were good. The third was, he stopped. We fought constantly. About the company, about money, about how much time I was spending at work. She wanted me to step back. I couldn't. And then she died before we could figure out how to fix it. I'm sorry. Don't be. I've had 5 years to process it. He paused. The worst part isn't that she died. It's that I'm not sure we would have made it even if she'd lived. And that makes me feel like a terrible person. Clara didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to comfort someone who was grieving a relationship that had been broken long before it ended. My longest relationship was 3 years, she offered. Marcus, the guy from the wedding, or rather, the guy who wasn't at the wedding. What happened? I got boring. Clara shrugged. At least that's what he said. That I'd stop trying. That all I cared about was work. That he needed someone who actually wanted to do things instead of sitting at home translating poetry nobody would ever read. Sounds like he was an idiot. Maybe. Or maybe he was right. Clara traced the rim of her water glass. I did stop trying. Toward the end, I couldn't pretend anymore. Couldn't pretend I was happy or that the relationship was working or that I saw a future with someone who thought my job was a hobby. It's not a hobby. Try telling that to literally anyone who asks what I do for a living. The food arrived. Huge plates of carbonara that looked better than anything Clara had eaten in months. She took a bite and nearly groaned. Okay, she said around a mouthful of pasta. You were right. This is incredible. Ethan smiled. Told you. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. Clara was halfway through her plate when she noticed Ethan watching her. What? She asked. Nothing. You look happy. It's really good pasta. It's not the pasta. Clara set down her fork. What do you want from me, Ethan? What do you mean? I mean, she gestured between them. What is this? What are we doing? Having dinner. You know what I mean. Ethan put down his own fork. Honestly? I don't know. I just know I wanted to see you again. And then I wanted to see you again after that. And I'm hoping you feel the same way. I do, Clara admitted. But that doesn't mean it's a good idea. Why not? Because you have a daughter and a company and a life that's way more complicated than mine. And I can't... She stopped, trying to find the right words. I can't be someone's second priority. I've done that before and it destroyed me. You wouldn't be. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Ethan reached across the table, took her hand. Clara, Lily is my daughter. She'll always come first. That's non-negotiable. But that doesn't mean there's no room for anyone else. It just means whoever else has to understand that sometimes a 7-year-old's nightmares are more important than a dinner reservation. I get that. Do you? Clara squeezed his hand. My dad died when I was 19. I spent the next decade watching my mom try to date, and every single guy couldn't handle the fact that she still had a kid at home who needed her. They all said they understood, but they didn't. And eventually they all left. I'm not going to leave. You can't promise that. No, Ethan agreed. But I can promise I'll try. That's all anyone can do. Clara wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe this was different, that he was different, that maybe she could have something good for once without it falling apart. Tell me about her, she said. Lily, what's her favorite thing? Ethan's face lit up. Right now? Drawing. She's obsessed. We have a whole wall in the apartment that's just her artwork. Dragons, princesses, cats, whatever she's into that week. Does she know about your wife? She knows her mom died. She doesn't remember her, which Ethan's voice caught. Which is probably a blessing, honestly, but she asks questions, wants to know what she was like, if they looked similar, why she's not here. What do you tell her? The truth, that her mom loved her, that she died in an accident, that it wasn't anyone's fault. He paused. And that even though she's gone, Lily's still got me, and her grandmother, and a whole life ahead of her. That's good, that you're honest with her. I don't know if it's good. I just know it's all I've got. Ethan finished his water. She's been asking lately if I'm going to get married again. Clara's heart skipped. What did you say? I said maybe someday, if I met the right person. And what did she say? She said the right person has to like drawing and know all the Disney princesses and not be scared of spiders, because she likes keeping them as pets, and most adults freak out. Clara laughed despite herself. Those are reasonable requirements. I thought so too. They finished dinner slowly, talking about everything and nothing. Lily's school, Clara's impossible translation project, Ethan's nightmare board meetings, the fact that neither of them had taken a real vacation in years. When the check came, Ethan grabbed it before Clara could protest. I can pay for my half, she said. I know you can, but I invited you, so I'm paying. That's old-fashioned. Call it what you want, you're not paying. Clara wanted to argue, but something about the way he said it, not condescending, just matter-of-fact, made her let it go. Outside, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets wet and glittering under the streetlights. Ethan walked her to the tea station. hands in his pockets, looking like he was trying to figure out how to say something. "Can I ask you something?" he said finally. "Sure. If I wanted to introduce you to Lily, not now, but eventually, would that be okay?" Clara stopped walking. "You want me to meet your daughter?" "Not tomorrow, but yeah, if this keeps going, I'd like her to know you. That's—" Clara struggled to find words. "That's a big deal." "I know. What if she doesn't like me?" "She'll like you." "You don't know that. I know she's been asking for someone who likes drawing and isn't scared of spiders," Ethan said. "And I'm guessing you can handle at least one of those." "I actually don't mind spiders." "Perfect. You're hired." Clara felt tears burning behind her eyes again. "You're serious about this?" "I wouldn't have asked if I wasn't." "I don't know how to be around kids." "Neither did I. You figure it out." They stood there on the sidewalk while people rushed past them to catch trains and taxis. Clara thought about all the reasons this was a terrible idea, all the ways it could go wrong, all the baggage they were both carrying and the complications waiting around every corner. But she also thought about the way Ethan had sat with her at the wedding, the way he'd remembered how she took her coffee, the way he talked about his daughter with a mix of exhaustion and fierce protective love that made Clara's chest ache. "Okay," she said. "Yeah? Yeah. When you're ready. I'll meet her." Ethan's entire face softened. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I might be terrible with kids." "You won't be." "Your confidence is unsettling." He smiled. "I'll walk you home." "It's out of your way." "I don't care." So they walked through the North End, past the quiet cafes and closed shops, all the way to Clara's terrible apartment building with its broken buzzer and flickering hallway lights. "This is me," Clara said, stopping at the door. "Nice building." "You're a terrible liar." "I'm really not trying to be charming right now. Could have fooled me." Ethan stepped closer. "Can I kiss you?" Clara's breath caught. "That's very polite of you to ask. Is that a yes?" "It's a—" She didn't finish the sentence because he was already kissing her, soft and careful, like he was afraid she might break. Clara kissed him back, her hands finding the front of his jacket, pulling him closer despite every instinct telling her to run. When they finally broke apart, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "I should go," he said. "Yeah. But I don't want to." "Me neither." He kissed her again, longer this time, deeper, until Clara forgot why this was supposed to be a bad idea. "Friday," Ethan said when they finally separated. "Same time." "You're very persistent." "Is that a yes?" Clara smiled. "It's a yes." She watched him walk away, waiting until he turned the corner before heading inside. Her apartment was cold and dark and exactly as depressing as she'd left it, but somehow it felt less empty than it had that morning. Her phone buzzed. "Ethan. Made it home. Lily wants to know if you're the lady from the wedding." Clara. "You told her about me?" Ethan. "She asked why I was smiling. I'm apparently not very good at hiding things from 7-year-olds. Clara. "What did you say?" Ethan. "That I met someone nice, and that maybe she'd get to meet you soon." Clara. "And what did she say?" Ethan. "She asked if you like glitter." Clara. "I can tolerate glitter." Ethan. "Good enough. See you Friday." Clara set her phone down and stared at the ceiling, trying to process what was happening. A week ago, she'd been sitting alone at her sister's wedding, convinced she'd never feel anything again. Now she was kissing a widowed billionaire who wanted her to meet his daughter and wasn't scared of her baggage. It was terrifying. It was also kind of wonderful. And for the first time in months, Clara let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, she deserved something good. 3 weeks later, Clara found herself standing outside a brownstone in Back Bay, holding a bag of art supplies she'd panic bought at Target, and seriously reconsidering every life choice that had led to this moment. Meeting Ethan's daughter hadn't been part of the plan. The plan had been to keep things casual, dinner once a week, occasional coffee, maybe some texting that got progressively more flirtatious as they figured out what they were doing. But then Lily's regular babysitter had canceled last minute, and Ethan had called Clara sounding genuinely stressed, and somehow Clara had heard herself volunteering to come over and help. Now she was here, about to meet a 7-year-old who would probably take one look at her and decide she wasn't good enough for her dad. Clara's phone buzzed. "Ethan." You can still back out, no judgment. Clara, I'm already here. Ethan, I know, I can see you from the window. You've been standing on the sidewalk for 5 minutes. Clara, creepy. Ethan, also accurate. Come inside before the neighbors think you're casing the place. Clara took a breath and rang the doorbell. Ethan answered immediately, looking rumpled and exhausted in a way that shouldn't have been attractive, but somehow was. Hey, he said. Hey. You brought supplies. Clara held up the Target bag. You said she likes drawing. I brought markers and construction paper and some glitter glue, which I'm already regretting because glitter is basically the herpes of craft supplies. Ethan laughed, a real one that made the tension in his shoulders ease slightly. She's gonna love you. You keep saying that. Because it's true. He stepped aside. Come on, she's in the living room having a meltdown about her math homework. Clara followed him inside, trying not to gawk at the apartment. It was beautiful. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, furniture that looked expensive but lived in. But it was also clearly the home of someone raising a kid alone. There were drawings taped to every available wall, a pile of small shoes by the door, and what looked like an entire bin of stuffed animals in the corner. Lily, Ethan called. Someone's here to meet you. A small voice from the other room. Is it the drawing lady? What did I tell you about eavesdropping? That it's only bad if I get caught. Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose. That is not what I said. Lily appeared in the doorway, all dark curls and missing teeth and a princess dress that had definitely seen better days. She looked at Clara with the kind of intense scrutiny that only kids could pull off. You're shorter than I thought, Lily said. Lily, Ethan warned. It's fine. Clara crouched down to Lily's level. You're taller than I thought. I'm very tall for my age. Mrs. Chen says I'm going to be a giant. Who's Mrs. Chen? My teacher. She's nice, but she gives too much math homework. Lily pointed at the Target bag. Is that for me? If you want it. Lily grabbed the bag and dumped the contents on the floor with zero ceremony. Glitter glue. Dad never buys glitter glue because he says it gets everywhere. It does get everywhere, Ethan muttered. Can we make something? Lily asked, already tearing into the construction paper. Sure. What do you want to make? A dragon. But a nice one. Not the kind that eats people. Clara sat down on the floor next to her. I can work with that. Ethan watched them for a moment, something unreadable crossing his face, before disappearing into the kitchen. Clara heard the sound of a kettle being filled, cabinets opening and closing. So, Lily said, carefully selecting a purple marker. Are you my dad's girlfriend? Clara nearly choked. That's a complicated question. Why? Because Clara tried to figure out how to explain adult relationships to a 7-year-old. Because your dad and I are still getting to know each other. But you like him, right? I do. And he likes you. I can tell because he smiles at his phone a lot now, and he only does that when you text him. You're very observant. I know. Lily started drawing scales on her dragon. My last dad's girlfriend didn't like me. Clara's heart sank. I'm sure that's not true. It is. She said I was too loud and I asked too many questions. Lily didn't look up from her drawing. She left after 3 months. Dad said it wasn't my fault, but I think it was. Lily, it's okay. I didn't like her either. She wore too much perfume and she never wanted to color with me. Clara didn't know what to say. Didn't know how to comfort a kid who'd clearly been through this before and was probably terrified it would happen again. I like coloring, Clara said finally. And I think you ask exactly the right amount of questions. Lily looked up at her. Really? Really? What about the loud part? I live in an apartment where my neighbor plays bass until 2 a.m. Trust me, you're not that loud. Lily grinned, gap-toothed and genuine, and went back to her dragon. They worked in silence for a while, Clara helping with the wings while Lily focused on making the scales as purple as possible. Can I ask you a question? Lily said eventually. Sure. Do you have a mom? I do. She lives in Connecticut. Do you have a dad? Clara's hand stilled. He died when I was younger. Like my mom? Yeah, like your mom. Lily processed this. Does it make you sad? Sometimes. But mostly I just remember the good stuff. like how he used to make me breakfast on Sundays and how he'd hum this song while he cooked. My dad doesn't hum. He's not very good at music. I heard that, Ethan called from the kitchen. It's true, Lily yelled back, then quieter to Clara. He tried to help me with my recorder last week and it sounded like a dying cat. Clara bit back a laugh. I'm sure it wasn't that bad. It was worse. Ethan appeared with 2 mugs of tea and a juice box. He handed Clara a mug, gave Lily the juice box, and sat down on the couch behind them. How's the dragon coming? He asked. Good. Clara's helping with the wings because I can't get them symmetrical. Symmetrical is hard, Ethan agreed. They worked for another hour. Lily talked nonstop about school, her friends, a boy named Jacob who ate paste, her grandmother who bought her too many toys, the fact that she wanted a cat but her dad said no because of allergies. Clara mostly listened, occasionally helping with a particularly tricky wing or scale, watching Ethan watch his daughter with an expression that made Clara's chest tight. Eventually, Lily yawned hard enough that her jaw cracked. Bedtime, Ethan said. But we're not done. We can finish tomorrow. But Clara won't be here tomorrow. She can come back, Ethan said carefully, if she wants to. Lily turned to Clara with wide, hopeful eyes. Will you? Clara looked at Ethan, who shrugged like your call, and felt something shift in her chest. Yeah, I can come back. Tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow, but soon. Lily seemed satisfied with this. She gathered up her dragon, still missing 1 wing and most of its face, and headed toward the hallway. Then she stopped, turned around, and ran back to hug Clara with the full force of a 7-year-old who didn't understand the concept of personal space. Thanks for the glitter glue, she said into Clara's shoulder. You're welcome. And thanks for not being mean. Clara's throat tightened. I won't be mean. I promise. Lily pulled back, studied her face for a moment, then nodded like she'd made a decision. Okay, you can be Dad's girlfriend. Lily, Ethan started, but she was already gone, running down the hall toward her bedroom, her princess dress trailing behind her. Ethan dropped his head into his hands. I am so sorry. Don't be. She's not usually that. She's great, Clara said. Honestly, she's really great. Ethan looked up at her. You mean that? I do. Clara stood, brushing glitter off her jeans. She's smart and funny, and she has good taste in dragons. She really does. They stood there for a moment, the apartment suddenly too quiet without Lily's chatter filling the space. I should go, Clara said. Let you do the bedtime routine. Or, Ethan stepped closer. You could stay. Help me clean up this glitter disaster. That's a terrible sales pitch. I'll order Thai food. Better. They cleaned in comfortable silence, sweeping glitter into piles that would probably never fully disappear, throwing away scraps of construction paper, organizing the markers back into their box. By the time they finished, Ethan's phone was buzzing with the delivery notification. They ate on the couch, containers spread across the coffee table, some cooking show playing quietly on the TV that neither of them was really watching. She likes you, Ethan said. I like her too. I mean it. She's usually more guarded with new people, but with you, he shook his head. She opened up immediately. Maybe because I didn't try too hard. Maybe. Ethan set down his container. Can I tell you something? Sure. That thing she said about my last girlfriend. He paused. That wasn't an exaggeration. Ashley lasted 3 months before she decided Lily was too much work. That's her loss. Yeah, well, it still hurt, watching Lily try so hard to be likable and having someone reject her anyway. Ethan's jaw tightened. I told myself I wouldn't do that again. Wouldn't bring anyone into her life unless I was sure. And are you? Sure? I'm sure I want to try. He turned to face her. But I need you to know what you're getting into. Lily's not just part of my life. She is my life. And if this gets serious, you're signing up for school plays and math homework and princess dresses at inappropriate times. You're signing up for tantrums and nightmares and questions about death that I don't know how to answer. Clara set down her own container. You're really selling this. I'm being honest. I know. She reached for his hand. And I appreciate it. But Ethan, I'm not Ashley. I'm not going to run the first time things get hard. You say that now. I say it because I mean it. Clara squeezed his hand. Look, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if I'm good enough at this to be what Lily needs. But I'm willing to try if you are. Ethan pulled her closer, kissed her forehead. I'm willing to try. They finished dinner curled up on the couch, Claire's head on Ethan's shoulder, both of them too tired to move. At some point, the cooking show ended and something else started. Clara wasn't paying attention. She was thinking about Lily's gap-toothed smile and the way Ethan had looked at his daughter, and the fact that she was here, in this apartment, being trusted with something precious. I should really go, she said eventually. You could stay. Clara pulled back to look at him. Lily's here. I have a guest room. That's very proper of you. I'm trying to be a gentleman. How's that working out? Ethan kissed her, slow and deep and nothing like a gentleman. When they broke apart, he was smiling. Not great. Clara laughed despite herself. I'm still leaving. Okay. But I'll come back, like I told Lily. When? When do you want me to? Tomorrow, Ethan said immediately. Tonight, always. You're getting clingy. Is that a problem? Clara thought about it. Thought about all her past relationships where she'd been the clingy one, the one who wanted more, the one who got hurt when the other person didn't match her energy. No, she said, it's not a problem. Ethan walked her to the door, kissed her goodbye like he was trying to memorize the taste of her. Clara rode the T home in a daze, her jeans covered in purple glitter, her heart doing something dangerous in her chest. Her phone buzzed. Ethan, Lily says you have to come back on Saturday because we're making pancakes and she wants to show you her room. Clara, just Lily says this? Ethan, I might have also mentioned it would be nice if you were here. Clara, might have? Ethan, definitely mentioned, possibly begged. Clara, pathetic. Ethan, and yet you're still coming. Clara, Saturday. What time? Ethan, 10 a.m.? Unless that's too early. Clara, it's perfect. Saturday became a regular thing. Then Wednesday nights. Then random weekday mornings when Ethan had to drop Lily at school and Clara happened to be in the neighborhood. Before she knew it, Clara had spent more time at Ethan's apartment than her own, had memorized Lily's favorite bedtime stories, had learned how to make the pancakes exactly right, or face a 7-year-old's wrath. It should have been terrifying, should have felt like too much too fast. Instead, it felt like coming home. But of course, nothing good ever lasted. The article dropped on a Tuesday morning while Clara was working on a translation at her kitchen table. Her phone started buzzing, first Emma, then a number she didn't recognize, then Emma again. Have you seen it? Emma asked when Clara finally answered. Seen what? The article. About Ethan. Clara's stomach dropped. What article? I'm sending you the link. Don't freak out. That's a terrible thing to say before sending someone a link. The link came through. Clara clicked it, her hands shaking. Boston Billionaire's Secret Romance, Ethan Donovan. Spotted with mystery woman. The photo was grainy but clear enough. Ethan and Clara leaving his apartment building, his hand on the small of her back, both of them smiling. The article was worse. Ethan Donovan, president of Donovan Hospitality Group, and one of Boston's most eligible widowers, appears to have a new woman in his life. Sources close to the family say Donovan has been seen repeatedly with Clara Whitmore, a freelance translator with no apparent connection to Boston's social circles. The relationship comes at a complicated time for Donovan, whose company has been struggling financially amid failed expansion attempts. Some board members have expressed concern that Donovan's focus on his personal life is affecting his business judgment. When reached for comment, a representative for the Donovan family declined to respond. Clara read it 3 times, each time feeling sicker. Clara? Emma's voice on the phone. You still there? Yeah, it's not that bad. They basically called me a gold-digging nobody who's distracting him from his job. They didn't say gold-digging, they implied it. Clara stood up, started pacing. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Have you talked to Ethan? Not yet. You should call him. And say what? Sorry, your company's failing and apparently I'm the reason? That's not what the article says. That's exactly what it says. Clara stopped in front of her window. I knew this was a bad idea. I knew I didn't belong in his world. You belong wherever you want to belong, Emma said firmly. Don't let some garbage gossip piece make you think otherwise. Claire's phone buzzed. Ethan calling. I have to go, she told Emma. Call me later. Clara switched lines. Hey, did you see it? Ethan's voice was tight. Yeah, I'm sorry. I should have known something like this would happen. It's not your fault. It is. I should have been more careful. Should have... He stopped. Can I come over? I don't think that's a good idea. Clara, I need some space to think, okay? It's a lot. Silence on the other end. Then, okay, but we need to talk about this. I know, just not right now. She hung up before he could respond, before she could hear the hurt in his voice and change her mind. The next 3 days were hell. Clara ignored Ethan's calls, his texts, the flowers he sent to her apartment with a note that just said, I'm sorry. She threw herself into work, accepting every translation project she could find, staying up until 3 a.m. to avoid thinking about the article or Ethan, or the fact that she'd probably just destroyed the best thing that had happened to her in years. On Friday, someone knocked on her door. Clara opened it, expecting Ethan. Instead, she found herself face-to-face with a woman in her 60s, dressed in a designer suit that probably cost more than Clara's entire wardrobe, looking at Clara's apartment like she'd stepped in something unpleasant. Clara Whitmore? The woman asked. Who's asking? Victoria Donovan, Ethan's mother. Clara's blood ran cold. How did you know where I live? I make it my business to know things. Victoria stepped inside without being invited, her gaze sweeping over the tiny space with barely concealed disdain. This won't take long. You can't just... I need you to leave my son alone. Clara stared at her. Excuse me? You heard me. Victoria turned to face her. I don't know what your angle is. Money, status, 15 minutes of fame. But this needs to stop. I don't have an angle. Everyone has an angle, Miss Whitmore, and frankly, yours is quite transparent. You don't know anything about me. I know you're a freelance translator barely making ends meet. I know you live in this... Victoria gestured around the apartment. Place. I know you met my son at a wedding 3 weeks ago and have somehow convinced him you're worth risking everything for. Clara's hands clenched into fists. I haven't convinced him of anything. No? Then explain why the board is questioning his judgment, why investors are pulling out of deals, why the company's stock has dropped 3 points since that article ran. That's not because of me, isn't it? Victoria stepped closer. My son has a daughter who needs stability, a company that needs leadership, a legacy that needs protecting. And you... She looked Clara up and down. You're a distraction he can't afford. Did Ethan send you here? Ethan doesn't know I'm here, and he won't. Because you're going to end this relationship quietly and professionally. And if I don't? Victoria's smile was ice. Then I'll make sure every potential client knows exactly who you are. Every literary journal, every publishing house, every translator network. I'll destroy your reputation so thoroughly that you won't be able to find work translating a cereal box. Clara felt like she'd been punched. You're threatening me. I'm protecting my family. There's a difference. Get out. Not until you agree. Get out of my apartment before I call the police. Victoria studied her for a long moment. You love him. It wasn't a question. That doesn't matter, Clara said. No, it doesn't. Victoria walked to the door, paused. For what it's worth, I believe you're not after his money. But that doesn't change the reality. You're not what he needs. And deep down, you know that. She left without waiting for a response. Clara stood in her empty apartment, shaking, Victoria's words echoing in her head. You're not what he needs. Her phone rang. Ethan again. This time she answered. Clara, thank God, I've been trying to reach you. We need to talk, she said. Okay, when? Now. Can you come over? I'll be there in 20 minutes. He made it in 15. Clara opened the door to find him looking worse than she'd ever seen him. Rumpled clothes, dark circles, the kind of exhaustion that came from too many sleepless nights. What happened? He asked immediately. Are you okay? Your mother was here. Ethan's face went white. What? About an hour ago. She told me to stay away from you, said I was destroying your company and ruining your life. Clara, is it true? About the company? The stock dropping? Investors pulling out? Ethan ran a hand through his hair. It's complicated. That's not an answer. The company's been struggling for months, since before I met you. The article didn't help, but it's not the cause. But it made things worse. Maybe. I don't know. He stepped toward her. But that doesn't matter. What matters is, it does matter, Ethan. Your mother's right. I'm a distraction you can't afford. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. Clara wrapped her arms around herself. You have a daughter to think about, a company to save, a whole world of responsibilities that I can't even begin to understand. And I'm nobody. A translator who can barely pay rent and doesn't know the first thing about your life. You're not nobody. To your world, I am. My world is bullshit, Ethan said sharply. Board meetings and stock prices and people who only care about money. You're the first real thing I've had in years. Real doesn't pay the bills. I have enough money for both of us. That's not the point. Then what is the point? Clara felt tears burning behind her eyes. The point is that I'm falling in love with you, and it's terrifying because I know how this ends. You'll choose the company, or your mother will make my life hell until I leave, or Lily will get hurt when this inevitably falls apart. And I can't... Her voice broke. I can't be the reason your life falls apart. Ethan crossed the room in 2 strides, pulled her into his arms. You're not. Your mother thinks I am. My mother's been trying to control my life since I was born. She wanted me to marry someone from the right family, someone who could help the company, someone who looked good in pictures and knew how to work a room. He pulled back to look at her. I don't want that person. I want you. Why? Because you sat with me at a wedding when I was lonely. Because you're good with Lily. Because you cry during commercials and eat cereal for dinner and translate poetry that nobody reads but means everything to you. He cupped her face. Because you're real, Clara, and I'm tired of pretending. What about the company? I'll figure it out. And your mother? She'll get over it, or she won't. Either way, it's not your problem. Clara wanted to believe him, wanted to believe love was enough to overcome board meetings and disapproving mothers and the very real differences between their worlds. I'm scared, she admitted. Me too. What if this doesn't work? Then it doesn't work, but at least we tried. Clara looked up at him, this man who'd walked into her life 3 weeks ago and turned everything upside down. This man who made her believe in things she'd stopped believing in. Okay, she said. Yeah? Yeah, but I need you to promise me something. Anything. If this starts affecting Lily, if she gets hurt or confused or caught in the middle of whatever drama your family creates, we stop. Immediately. Ethan's expression softened. Deal. He kissed her then, deep and desperate, like he'd been drowning and she was air. Clara kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. I love you too, Ethan said against her mouth. In case that wasn't clear. Clara laughed despite the tears on her cheeks. It was pretty clear. They stood there in her terrible apartment holding each other, while outside the world kept spinning and the problems kept mounting, and Victoria Donovan probably plotted new ways to destroy them. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. And maybe that would be enough. It turned out that promising to fight for someone and actually doing it were 2 very different things. The article was just the beginning. Within a week, Clara's phone number somehow ended up in the hands of 3 different tabloid reporters who called at all hours asking about her relationship with Boston's most eligible billionaire. Her building superstarted, giving her suspicious looks every time she came home, like dating someone rich was somehow contagious. And worst of all, she got an email from her biggest client, a literary journal that provided almost 1/3 of her income, politely declining to renew her contract for the upcoming year. No explanation given. Clara sat at her kitchen table staring at the email, her stomach churning. She knew what this was. Victoria Donovan making good on her threat. Her phone buzzed. Ethan. Ethan, Lily wants to know if you're coming for dinner tonight. She's making spaghetti, which means the kitchen will be a disaster, but the food will be edible. Clara stared at the message, then at the rejection email, then back at the message. Clara. Can't tonight. Work stuff. Ethan. Everything okay? Clara. Fine. Just busy. She set her phone down before he could respond, before she could tell him the truth, and watch him try to fix something that couldn't be fixed with money or connections or good intentions. The thing about being with someone like Ethan was that every problem started to look like something he should solve. Client dropped her? He could make a call. Reporter won't stop calling? He knew people. Money tight? Well, that wasn't even a question. But Clara didn't want to be someone's project. Didn't want to be the struggling artist saved by the billionaire boyfriend. She'd spent her entire adult life building a career on her own terms, and she wasn't about to give that up now, even if it meant losing everything. The next morning, she took the T to Cambridge for a meeting with a potential new client, a small press that published Eastern European literature in translation. It was a long shot, but Clara was running out of options. The publisher's office was above a used bookstore accessed by a narrow staircase that smelled like old paper and coffee. Clara climbed to the third floor and knocked on a door marked East Wind Press in fading letters. "Come in," a voice called. Inside, a woman in her 50s sat behind a desk piled with manuscripts, wearing reading glasses on a chain and a sweater that had seen better days. She looked up when Clara entered. "You must be Clara Whitmore." "That's me. Thanks for meeting with me, Ms. Kowalski." "Just Diane." She gestured to a chair. "Sit. Want coffee? It's terrible, but it's free." "I'm good, thanks." Diane leaned back in her chair, studying Clara over her glasses. "So, I read your samples. The Radnodi translations are beautiful, really beautiful." "Thank you. But I have to ask, why are you here? You've worked with some of the best journals in the country. Why come to a small press that can barely afford to pay its authors, let alone its translators?" Clara had prepared an answer for this. Something professional about wanting to work with emerging voices, about believing in Eastwind's mission. Instead, she heard herself say, "Because I need work and nobody else will hire me right now." Diane raised an eyebrow. "That honest, huh?" "Apparently. Does this have anything to do with that article? The one about you and the Donovan kid?" Clara's stomach sank. "You saw that?" "Hard not to. It's been circulating in certain circles." Diane poured herself coffee from a pot that looked like it had been sitting there since yesterday. "People love a good class warfare romance. Poor girl meets rich boy, tale as old as time. It's not like that, isn't it?" "No, I mean..." Clara stopped. "We met at a wedding. We started dating. The media made it into something it's not. And the journal's dropping you, that just coincidence? His mother's making my life difficult." "Ah." Diane sipped her terrible coffee. "So you need work because Mommy Dearest is blackballing you." "Basically." "And what happens when she comes after me? When she starts making calls to my distributors, my donors, everyone who keeps this place running?" Clara hadn't thought about that. I'd never ask you to risk..." "Relax, kid. I'm messing with you." Diane set down her mug. Victoria Donovan's been a thorn in the side of the arts community for years, always trying to control which museums get funded, which galleries get attention. She thinks money means power, and usually she's right, but sometimes, she smiled, sometimes people like me don't give a shit about her money or her power. "You're saying you'll hire me?" "I'm saying I'll give you a project, 3 Hungarian short stories due in 6 weeks. The pay is garbage. We're talking maybe 2,000 for the whole thing, but it's work, and it's good work, and nobody can take it away from you." Clara felt her eyes burn. "Why?" "Because your Radnoti translations made me cry, and that doesn't happen often. Also because screw Victoria Donovan and her society page bullshit." Diane pulled out a contract from somewhere in her desk chaos. "What do you say?" "Yes. Absolutely yes." They shook hands, and Clara left with a contract in her bag and something that felt dangerously close to hope in her chest. She was halfway home when Ethan called. "You've been avoiding me," he said without preamble. "I've been busy." "For 3 days? It's a lot of work, Ethan." Silence on the other end. Then, "Did my mother get to you?" Clara stopped walking. "What?" "After our last conversation, did she contact you again? Threaten you?" "No. Why would you?" "Because I know my mother, and I know you've been pulling away since that day." His voice was tight. "So either tell me what she said or tell me what I did wrong." Clara sank onto a bench, suddenly exhausted. "You didn't do anything wrong. Then what is it?" "I lost a client. My biggest one. They didn't give a reason, but the timing's pretty convenient. Clara, Joel, Bora. And I know what you're going to say, that you can fix it, that you can make some calls or throw money at the problem or whatever rich people do. But I don't want that. I was actually going to ask if you were okay. That stopped her. Oh. But since we're on the subject, I could make some calls, find out who pressured them, get them to reconsider, and prove your mother right that I need you to solve my problems. That's not what this is about, isn't it? Clara watched people hurry past, students, professionals, normal people with normal problems. Every time something goes wrong, you swoop in with a solution. You buy me dinner because you know I can't afford the nice places. You send flowers when we fight. You probably have some assistant screening my calls from reporters. I do, actually. Is that a problem? Is that a... Yes, because I'm not some damsel in distress who needs saving. I'm a grown woman who's been taking care of herself for years. I know that. Do you? Because it feels like you think I'm made of glass, like one wrong move and I'll shatter. Ethan let out a long breath. You're not glass, but you're also not alone anymore. And I'm sorry if trying to help feels like I'm undermining you, but I don't know how else to... He stopped. I don't know how to be in a relationship and not try to fix things. Maybe some things can't be fixed. Is that what you want? To handle everything yourself and never let me help? Clara didn't know how to answer that. Part of her wanted exactly what she'd said. Independence, autonomy, proof that she didn't need anyone. But another part of her was tired. Tired of struggling alone. Tired of pretending she had all the answers. I got a new client, she said finally. A small press in Cambridge. The pay's terrible, but the work's good. That's great. I did it myself, without your help. I never doubted you could. Your mother did. She said I was a distraction you couldn't afford, that I'd ruin your company and your reputation and everything you've built. My mother says a lot of things. What if she's right? She's not. You don't know that. Yes, I do. Ethan's voice softened. Clara, the company's problems started long before I met you. My father overextended, made bad deals, trusted the wrong people. I've been trying to fix his mistakes for 5 years, and I'm barely keeping us afloat. That's not on you. That's on me for inheriting a mess and not knowing how to clean it up. Clara picked at a thread on her jacket. What if you have to choose? Between what? The company or me? That's not a choice I'm willing to make. But what if it comes to that? What if the board gives you an ultimatum? Then I'll deal with it when it happens. He paused. But I'm not giving you up because some board members think I should marry someone more appropriate. I already did that once, remember? Married the right person for the wrong reasons. I'm not making that mistake again. Your wife, Ushuaie, was a good person who I wasn't in love with. We got married because our families approved and it looked good on paper. And we spent 3 years making each other miserable before she died, and I had to spend the rest of my life pretending we were happy. His voice cracked. I won't do that again. Not for the company, not for my mother, not for anyone. Clara had never heard him talk about his marriage like that. The articles always made it sound like a love story cut short. Childhood sweethearts. Tragic loss. The kind of romance people wrote movies about. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. Because it's not exactly first date conversation. Hi, I'm Ethan. My marriage was a sham, and I'm still dealing with the guilt. I would have understood. Would you? Or would you have run for the hills? Fair point. Clara probably would have run. I'm sorry, she said, for assuming, for pulling away. And I'm sorry for trying to fix everything. I'll work on that. We're kind of a mess, aren't we? Yeah, but we're a mess together. Clara smiled despite everything. Can I see you tonight? Lily will be thrilled. She's been asking about you constantly. Just Lily? I may have also mentioned missing you once or twice. Once or twice? Okay, it was more like 50 times. I'm pathetic. You really are. Clara stood up, started walking toward the tea station. I'll be there at 6. Perfect. Wear something you don't mind getting spaghetti sauce on. That night, Clara showed up at Ethan's apartment with a bottle of cheap wine and a peace offering, a book of Hungarian fairy tales she'd found at a used bookstore. Lily answered the door wearing an apron that was 3 sizes too big and covered in flour. You came! She threw her arms around Clara's legs. Of course I came. I heard there was spaghetti. I'm making the sauce myself. Dad says I can't use the stove, but I can stir everything in the bowl. That sounds like a very important job. Lily grabbed her hand and dragged her to the kitchen, where Ethan was attempting to save what looked like a pot of water that had boiled over. "You're early," he said, looking frazzled in a way that Clara found unreasonably attractive. "I'm exactly on time. You're just in over your head." "That's accurate." He abandoned the stove to kiss her hello, quick and sweet, mindful of the 7-year-old currently mixing tomato sauce with the enthusiasm of a cement mixer. They made dinner together, Clara chopping vegetables while Ethan managed the actual cooking, and Lily narrated everything they were doing like a cooking show host. The pasta was overcooked, the sauce was too sweet, and there was cheese on every available surface by the time they sat down to eat. It was perfect. After dinner, Lily insisted on showing Clara her latest art project, a massive drawing of what appeared to be a family of dragons living in a castle. "That one's the dad dragon," Lily explained, pointing to the largest figure. "And that's the kid dragon. And that one," she pointed to a smaller dragon with what looked like a scarf. "That's the friend dragon who visits sometimes." Clara looked at the friend dragon more closely. It had dark hair and was holding what might have been a book. "Is that supposed to be me?" she asked. Lily shrugged, but she was smiling. "Maybe." Clara felt her throat tighten. "I love it." "You can have it if you want." "Really?" "Yeah, I can make another one." Clara carefully took the drawing, holding it like it was made of glass. "Thank you, Lily. I'm going to hang this in my apartment." "Promise?" "Promise." After Lily went to bed, a process that involved 3 stories, 2 glasses of water, and 1 extended negotiation about whether dragons counted as appropriate bedtime conversation, Clara and Ethan collapsed on the couch. "She's exhausting," Ethan said. "She's wonderful." "She's both." He pulled Clara closer. "Thanks for coming tonight." "Thanks for inviting me." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, some documentary playing quietly on the TV. Clara traced patterns on Ethan's hand, thinking about the drawing now carefully rolled up in her bag, about Lily's gap-toothed smile, about the way this apartment felt more like home than her own. "Can I ask you something?" Ethan said. "Sure." "What do you want? Long-term, I mean. From this. From us." Clara considered lying, saying something non-committal about taking things day by day. Instead, she went with honesty. "I want to wake up next to you. I want to help Lily with her homework and fight about whose turn it is to do dishes. I want to translate poetry in your living room while you work on laptop and she draws dragons on every available surface." She paused. "I want the boring stuff, the normal stuff, the stuff that doesn't make it into articles or gossip columns." Ethan kissed the top of her head. "I want that too." "Yeah?" "Yeah. Although fair warning, I'm terrible at dishes." "I assumed." They stayed like that until Clara started dozing off, her head on Ethan's shoulder, his arm around her waist. At some point, he must have carried her to the guest room because she woke up the next morning in an actual bed, still fully dressed, with a note on the nightstand. "Had to take Lily to school. Coffee in the kitchen. Make yourself at home." E. Clara lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling of Ethan's guest room, thinking about Victoria Donovan and board meetings, and the very real possibility that loving this man would cost her everything she'd built. Then she got up, made coffee, and decided it was worth it. The crisis came 2 weeks later, though it had probably been building for months. Ethan called her at 11 p.m. on a Wednesday, which was unusual enough that Clara answered immediately. "I need you to come to the hotel," he said without preamble. "The Donovan Lansing. Now." "What's wrong?" "I'll explain when you get here. Please, Clara, I need—" His voice cracked. "I need you." She was in an Uber within 5 minutes. The hotel lobby was chaos when she arrived. Board members in expensive suits arguing in clusters, assistants running back and forth with documents, someone who looked like a lawyer talking urgently into a phone. Clara spotted Ethan in the corner, surrounded by 3 older men who all looked furious. She pushed through the crowd. One of the men, silver-haired, probably mid-60s, spotted her and his face darkened. "This is a private meeting," he said coldly. "She's with me," Ethan said. "This is exactly the kind of distraction we've been talking about, Ethan. You need to focus on the company, not your personal life." "Careful, Richard." Ethan's voice was dangerous. "You're about to cross a line." The board is voting tomorrow, Richard said, on whether to merge with the Hale Group. It's the only way to save the company at this point. Clara's stomach dropped. The Hale Group, as in Vivian Hale, the woman Victoria wanted Ethan to marry. There are other options, Ethan said. No, there aren't. You've been stalling for months hoping for some miracle solution. Well, the numbers are in, and we're hemorrhaging money. Either we merge or we go under entirely. And if I refuse? Then the board will vote to remove you as president and proceed with the merger anyway. You'll be out, and you'll have destroyed your father's legacy in the process. Ethan's jaw tightened. Give me 24 hours. For what? To come up with an alternative. Richard laughed bitterly. You've had 5 years, Ethan. What are you going to do in 24 hours? I don't know, but I'm asking for the chance to try. The men exchanged looks. Finally, Richard sighed. Fine, 24 hours. But after that, we vote. With or without your approval. They dispersed, leaving Ethan standing there looking like he'd been through a war. Clara went to him immediately. What can I do? She asked. Nothing. He shook his head. This is 5 years of bad decisions coming home to roost. There has to be something. There's not. The New York and Chicago properties are bleeding us dry. We can't sell them because the market's wrong. We can't keep funding them because we don't have the capital. And every solution requires money we don't have or partnerships we can't secure. What about the Hale merger? Ethan's expression darkened. That's not a merger. That's a hostile takeover disguised as a partnership. They'd get controlling interest, I'd get a ceremonial title, and Vivian... He stopped. Vivian what? Her father made it clear the deal includes marriage. Not immediately, but eventually. They want the family connection. Clara felt like she'd been punched. So you have to choose. The company or me? It's not that simple. It sounds pretty simple. Clara, if you merge, you have to marry someone else. If you don't merge, the company fails, and you lose everything your father built, right? Ethan didn't answer, which was answer enough. Clara stepped back. I need air. Don't... He reached for her. Please don't leave. I'm not leaving. I just need a minute. She walked out to the hotel balcony, the same one where she'd first told Ethan her last name, where he'd looked up that stupid lullaby, where everything had started. The city spread out below her, all lights and noise and people going about their normal lives while hers fell apart. Someone cleared their throat behind her. Clara turned to find Victoria Donovan standing there, looking immaculate, even at 11 p.m. I wondered when you'd show up, Clara said. This isn't a social call. Yeah, I figured. Victoria moved to stand beside her at the railing. My son is about to make the biggest mistake of his life. Which is? Refusing the merger because of you. He hasn't refused anything yet. He will, because he thinks love is more important than legacy. That passion trumps responsibility. Victoria's voice was cold. I made that mistake once. Married for love instead of sense. Do you know what happened? No. He left me after 10 years for someone younger. Took half my money and all my dignity. I swore I'd never let my children make the same mistake. Ethan's not you. No, he's worse. At least I knew what I was risking. He's so blinded by whatever he feels for you that he can't see he's destroying everything. Clara gripped the railing. What do you want from me? I want you to do what's right. End this relationship. Let him save the company. And marry Vivian Hale, if that's what it takes. Yes. You're asking me to break his heart. I'm asking you to save his life. Victoria turned to face her. That company is all he has. It's his legacy, his future, Lily's inheritance. Without it, he's just another single father struggling to make ends meet. Is that what you want for him? I want him to be happy. Happy doesn't pay the bills. Happy doesn't secure his daughter's future. Happy doesn't honor the legacy his father died building. Maybe his father shouldn't have built something that required his son to sacrifice his entire life to maintain it. Victoria's eyes flashed. You don't understand our world. No, I don't, and I don't want to. Clara pushed off the railing. But I understand Ethan, and I know he's strong enough to make his own choices. Even if those choices destroy him? Even then. She walked back inside before Victoria could respond, before she could say something she'd regret, or start crying in front of the woman who'd made her life hell. Ethan was still in the lobby, now talking to someone on the phone. When he saw Clara, he ended the call immediately. "I'm sorry," he said, "for dragging you into this mess. I was already in it. You shouldn't have to be." He rubbed his face. "The board's right. I've been stalling, hoping for a miracle, and now I'm out of time." "So what are you going to do?" Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, and Clara saw something shift in his expression, like he'd made a decision. "I'm going to refuse the merger," he said. "Ethan, and I'm going to tell the board that if they want to remove me, that's their choice. But I'm not marrying Vivian Hale. I'm not trading my personal life for a company that's been failing for years anyway. You'll lose everything." "Not everything." He took her hand. "I'll still have Lily, and if you'll have me, I'll still have you." Clara felt tears on her cheeks. "This is crazy." "Probably. Your mother will never forgive you." "I'll live. The board will vote you out. Let them." "And then what?" Ethan smiled, tired but genuine. "Then I figure out how to build something new, something that's actually mine instead of my father's ghost, something that doesn't require me to sacrifice the people I love." "You're sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Clara kissed him, hard and desperate and full of everything she couldn't say. When they broke apart, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "I love you," he said, "and I'm choosing you. The board can do whatever they want. I love you too, but we need a better plan than just giving up." "You have one?" Clara thought about it, about the small press in Cambridge that didn't care about society page drama, about all the businesses she'd worked with over the years that valued substance over status, about the fact that sometimes the best way forward wasn't trying to save something broken, but building something new. "Maybe," she said, "but you're not going to like it. Try me." So she told him, and he listened. And when she finished, he started laughing, not because it was funny, but because it was crazy enough to actually work. "Okay," he said, "let's do it." "Yeah?" "Yeah. What have we got to lose?" As it turned out, everything, but also, somehow, nothing that actually mattered. The board meeting started at 9 a.m. sharp, which meant Ethan had roughly 10 hours to pull off what was either the smartest or stupidest decision of his life. Clara spent those 10 hours in his apartment with Lily, trying to act normal while simultaneously helping Ethan draft a proposal that would either save everything or destroy it completely. Lily seemed to sense something was wrong. She kept asking why her dad was on the phone so much, why Clara looked nervous, why nobody wanted to play dragons with her. "Your dad's just busy with work stuff," Clara said, helping Lily arrange her stuffed animals into what appeared to be a dragon kingdom. "Is it bad work stuff?" "It's complicated work stuff. That's what grown-ups say when they don't want to tell you the truth." Lily positioned a purple dragon on top of a pillow mountain. "Emma's mom said that before Emma's dad moved out." Clara's heart sank. "Your dad's not going anywhere, sweetie." "But you might." "What makes you say that?" Lily shrugged, not meeting her eyes. "All the other ones left. Dad's friend Ashley. And before that, there was someone named Jennifer who I don't really remember. Grandma says it's because Dad works too much and women don't like that." Clara wanted to find Victoria Donovan and shake her for putting that idea in a 7-year-old's head. Instead, she pulled Lily close. "I'm not leaving," she said firmly. "Your dad and I are figuring some stuff out, but that doesn't mean I'm going anywhere, okay? Promise?" "I promise." Lily seemed satisfied with that, or at least willing to pretend she was. They spent the next hour building an elaborate dragon fortress out of couch cushions while Clara's phone buzzed constantly with updates from Ethan. "Ethan. Talked to 3 investors, 2 interested, 1 wants more details." "Ethan. Richard called the proposal financial suicide, so that's encouraging." "Ethan. My mother just told me I'm destroying the family legacy. Pretty sure that's her version of good luck." "Ethan. How's Lily?" "Clara. Building a dragon empire, asking hard questions about why people leave." "Ethan. Shit. What did you tell her?" "Clara. That I'm not going anywhere. Hope that's still accurate." "Ethan. It is, no matter what happens today." At 8:30 p.m., Ethan came home looking like he'd aged 5 years in 10 hours. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled, and he had the expression of someone who'd just survived a war and wasn't sure if he'd won or lost. Lily ran to him immediately. Did you fix the work stuff? Still working on it, Bug. He scooped her up despite looking ready to collapse. But right now I need you to brush your teeth and get ready for bed. But it's early. Lily, please. Something in his voice made her stop arguing. She hugged him tight, then ran off toward the bathroom. Ethan sank onto the couch, head in his hands. Clara sat beside him. How bad? The board voted 8-4 in favor of the merger. But you're still president? For now, they're giving me 2 weeks to present a viable alternative. If I can't, he didn't finish. Then what happens? Then they proceed with the merger. Remove me from the board, and I lose everything except my shares, which will be worth about half what they are now once the Hales gut the company for parts. Clara took his hand. Tell me about the plan. The real version, not the 2-minute pitch. Ethan took a breath. We sell off the New York and Chicago properties at a loss. Use that capital to restructure the Boston location as a boutique hotel, smaller, more focused, actually profitable. Partner with local businesses instead of trying to compete with the big chains. And, he paused. This is the crazy part. We convert the upper floors into affordable artist residences. Studios for writers, painters, musicians, people who need space but can't afford Boston rent. That's financial suicide. I know. Richard said the same thing. I was going to say brilliant. Ethan looked at her. You think so? I think it's exactly the kind of thing your father would never have done, which means it's exactly the kind of thing you should do. The profit margins will be terrible, at least for the first few years. But you'll own something that matters, something that's actually yours. If I can pull it off, that's a pretty big if. Clara squeezed his hand. So what's the next step? I need investors, people who believe in the vision enough to take a risk. And I need them in 2 weeks, which is basically impossible. Nothing's impossible, just really, really hard. Ethan almost smiled. When did you become an optimist? When I started dating a guy who sat with me at a wedding because I looked sad. Clara leaned against his shoulder. We'll figure it out. We? You think I'm letting you do this alone? It's not your problem to solve. Too bad. I'm solving it anyway. They sat like that until Lily reappeared in her pajamas, demanding a bedtime story. Ethan read her 3 books, one about dragons, one about a princess who saved herself, and one about a dad and daughter building a treehouse. When Lily finally fell asleep, he came back to the living room and found Clara at his laptop, already drafting emails. What are you doing? He asked. Reaching out to every artist, writer, and creative person I know, telling them about the residency idea, seeing if anyone wants to invest or knows someone who might. Clara, she also calling in a favor from that publisher I work with. Diane knows everyone in the arts community. If anyone can find you investors who care about more than profit margins, it's her. Ethan sat beside her, watching her type with a focus he recognized from when she worked on translations. You don't have to do this. I know. I want to. She glanced at him. Besides, if this works, I'm totally applying for one of those artist residences. My apartment's a nightmare. You could just move in here. The words hung between them. That's a big step, Clara said carefully. I know, but Ethan ran a hand through his hair. I'm tired of pretending this is casual, of acting like you're not already part of this family. Lily asked me yesterday when you were going to live with us, and I didn't have a good answer. What did you tell her? That we were taking things slow, but honestly, I don't want slow. I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to fight about whose turn it is to make coffee. I want Lily to stop asking when you're coming over because you're already here. Clara's eyes burned. Your mother will lose her mind. My mother already lost her mind. This won't make it worse. The board's going to vote me out anyway if I can't find investors, so screw them. He took her hand. Move in with me. Not because it's practical or makes sense, but because I love you and I want to come home to you every night. That's the worst sales pitch I've ever heard. Is it working? Clara kissed him instead of answering, which was answer enough. The next 2 weeks were chaos. Clara moved her stuff in boxes that Ethan's assistant picked up because Clara didn't own a car and couldn't afford movers. She converted a corner of Ethan's office into a makeshift workspace, her Hungarian dictionaries taking over his bookshelf. her terrible coffee maker replacing his expensive espresso machine. Lily adapted immediately, like she'd been waiting for this all along. She started leaving drawings on Clara's desk, asking her to read bedtime stories when Ethan got stuck on late-night conference calls, stealing her sweaters because they were cozier than Dad's. Meanwhile, Ethan worked 18-hour days trying to line up investors. He pitched his restructuring plan to anyone who'd listen, former colleagues, business school friends, random people Diane connected him with through her arts network. Most said no. Some said maybe. A few said yes, but with conditions that would have defeated the entire purpose. 5 days before the board's deadline, they had commitments for roughly 60% of what they needed. "It's not enough," Ethan said, staring at the spreadsheet on his laptop. It was 2 a.m., and he'd been at this since breakfast. "Even if every maybe becomes a yes, we're still short." Clara looked up from the translation she was supposed to have finished yesterday. "What about the Hale merger? Is that still on the table?" "According to Richard, yes, they're just waiting for me to fail." "And if you took it, the merger?" Ethan closed his laptop. "Then I'd have a job and a paycheck, and Lily's future would be secure. And I'd spend the rest of my life wondering what could have been if I'd just had the guts to try." "That's not an answer." "The answer is no. I'm not taking the merger. Even if this fails, even if I lose everything, I'd rather rebuild from nothing than spend another 5 years maintaining something I hate." Clara had never loved him more than in that moment, exhausted and stubborn and refusing to compromise on the things that mattered. "Then we need a new plan," she said. "I'm open to suggestions." Clara thought about it, about all the artists she knew who struggled to find space, about the writers working from coffee shops because they couldn't afford studios, about the fact that Ethan's plan wasn't just about saving a hotel, it was about creating something that actually helped people. "What if we crowdfund it?" she said. Ethan stared at her. "What?" "Crowdfunding. We put the artist residency idea online, let people invest small amounts, $20, $50, whatever they can afford. We're not trying to replace the big investors. We're supplementing them, showing that there's actual community interest. That's..." Ethan stopped. "That might actually work. It's a long shot." "Everything we're doing is a long shot." They spent the rest of the night building a campaign. Clara wrote the description, focusing on the human element, artists who needed space, a community that deserved better than another luxury high-rise, the chance to be part of something meaningful. Ethan handled the financial projections, showing exactly how the money would be used and what investors would get in return. They launched it at 6 a.m., posted it everywhere they could think of, and then waited. By noon, they'd raised $300. By dinner, it was up to $2,000. By the end of the week, they'd hit $50,000, not nearly enough to close the gap, but enough to show the board that people actually cared about this. The board meeting was scheduled for Friday at 10 a.m. Ethan went in with his revised proposal, the investor commitments, and printouts of the crowdfunding campaign showing hundreds of individual donors who'd contributed anywhere from $5 to $500. Clara waited at the apartment with Lily, who insisted on making a good luck banner out of construction paper and glitter. By the time they finished, the kitchen looked like a craft store had exploded, and Clara had glitter in places she didn't know glitter could reach. "Think it'll work?" Lily asked, surveying their glittery masterpiece. "I don't know, sweetie, but your dad's doing his best. Is he going to lose his job?" Clara didn't want to lie to her. "He might, but that doesn't mean everything's going to fall apart. It just means things will be different for a while." "Different how?" "I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out together, all three of us." Lily seemed to think about this. "If Dad loses his job, does that mean we have to move?" "Maybe. Would that be scary?" "A little, but..." Lily looked up at Clara with those serious dark eyes that were so much like Ethan's. "As long as we're all together, it's okay, right?" Clara pulled her into a hug. "Right." They were still sitting on the glitter-covered floor when Ethan came home 3 hours later. Clara couldn't read his expression, somewhere between exhausted and shell-shocked, and something else she couldn't identify. "Dad!" Lily ran to him. "Did you see our banner?" Ethan looked at the construction paper sign covered in uneven glitter letters spelling out, "Good luck, Dad." His face crumpled for just a second before he pulled himself together. "It's perfect, Bug. Best banner I've ever seen." "So? What happened?" Ethan looked at Clara over Lily's head. "The board voted 9-3 in favor of my proposal. Clara's heart stopped. What? We're selling the New York and Chicago properties, restructuring the Boston hotel, moving forward with the artist residency program. He sank onto the couch like his legs couldn't hold him anymore. We're actually doing this. Oh my God. Clara crossed to him, not quite believing it. How? What changed? Turns out showing up with $50,000 in crowdfunding and a waiting list of 200 artists who want residencies is pretty compelling evidence that people actually want this. He laughed, a little hysterical. Also, Richard did the math and realized we might actually break even in 3 years instead of 5. That helped. What about your mother? Voted against it, along with 2 of her friends on the board, but the rest... He shook his head. The rest said it was the first time in years they'd seen a proposal that wasn't just about profit margins, that actually stood for something. Lily was bouncing on her toes. Does this mean you still have a job? Yeah, Bug. I still have a job. And we don't have to move? We're staying right here. Lily threw her arms around him and Ethan held her tight, his face buried in her hair. Clara watched them, her throat tight, thinking about all the ways this could have gone wrong and somehow didn't. Later, after Lily was in bed and the glitter had been mostly cleaned up, Clara and Ethan sat on the balcony overlooking the city. It was cold, but neither of them wanted to go inside yet. I can't believe we pulled it off, Clara said. We almost didn't, if the crowdfunding hadn't worked, but it did. Because you thought of it. Because you spent a week sending emails and making calls and convincing people this mattered. Ethan took her hand. I couldn't have done this without you. You would have found another way. Maybe, but it wouldn't have been as good. They sat in silence for a while, watching the city lights. Your mother called me yesterday, Clara said eventually. Ethan tensed. What did she say? That I'd ruined your life, that the company's going to fail and it'll be my fault, that I should have walked away when I had the chance. Clara turned to look at him. She also said, I don't understand what it means to be with someone like you, the pressure, the responsibility, the constant scrutiny. She's not wrong about that last part. This life, it's not easy. I know, but I also know I'd rather figure it out with you than be safe and comfortable without you. Ethan pulled her closer, kissed her temple. I love you. I love you too. Even though your mother hates me and your board thinks I'm a distraction, and there's probably going to be another article about how I'm destroying Boston's hotel empire. For what it's worth, the empire was already pretty destroyed when you showed up. You just helped me build something better. Clara smiled despite everything. So what happens now? Now we sell off the properties, restructure the hotel, build out the residency program? Try not to screw it all up. Sounds exhausting. It will be. Ethan stood, pulled her to her feet. But first, there's something I need to do. He led her inside, through the apartment, past Lily's room where small snores drifted through the cracked door. They ended up in the living room where Ethan stopped in front of the piano that Clara had only ever seen him use as a very expensive table for stacking mail. I didn't know you played, she said. I don't. Not really. But my wife did. She tried to teach me, but I was terrible at it. He sat down on the bench, gestured for Clara to join him. After she died, I couldn't look at this thing without feeling guilty, so I just ignored it. For 5 years. Clara sat beside him. You don't have to. I want to. Ethan placed his hands on the keys, hesitated, then started playing. It was simple, halting, definitely not professional, but Clara recognized the melody immediately. The Hungarian lullaby. The same one that had played at the wedding. You learned it, she whispered. I've been practicing. Badly. Lily keeps asking why I'm torturing the piano. He stumbled through a few more notes. I thought maybe, if we're building something new, I should stop running from the old stuff. The memories, the guilt, all of it. Clara rested her head on his shoulder while he played. The music was imperfect, full of mistakes and hesitations, but it was also honest, real, the sound of someone trying, failing, and trying again anyway. When he finished, they sat in silence. My dad would have liked you, Clara said eventually. He would have appreciated that you learned his song. I wish I could have met him. Me too. She laced her fingers through his. He used to say that the best things in life are the ones you have to fight for. That easy doesn't mean good, and hard doesn't mean impossible. Smart man. He was. Clara looked around the apartment, at Lily's drawings covering the walls, at the box of her translations in the corner, at the life they were building together out of broken pieces and second chances. I think he'd be proud of what we're doing, the hotel, the residencies, creating space for people who need it. Even though we have no idea if it'll actually work, especially because of that. Ethan kissed her, slow and sweet and full of promises about futures they couldn't predict and problems they'd probably face and the stubborn, stupid decision to try anyway. 4 months later, the renovations on the Donovan Lansing Hotel were almost complete. The upper 3 floors had been converted into artist studios, small but functional spaces with good light and reasonable rent. They'd received over 500 applications for 30 available spots. Clara had taken one of the studios, partly because her old apartment's lease was up, mostly because she wanted to be part of what they were building. She spent her days translating Hungarian poetry in a space with actual natural light, surrounded by painters and musicians and writers who understood what it meant to create something out of nothing. The hotel itself had been rebranded, smaller, boutique, focused on local partnerships instead of luxury status. The profit margins were tight, just like Ethan had predicted, but they were in the black, which was more than they'd been in years. Victoria Donovan hadn't spoken to her son in 3 months. She'd voted against every decision, fought every change, and eventually resigned from the board entirely rather than watch what she called the systematic destruction of everything your father built. Ethan had let her go. It hurt. Clara could see it in the tight set of his shoulders whenever Lily asked about Grandma, but he didn't try to fix it. Some things, he'd learned, couldn't be fixed with phone calls or grand gestures. Sometimes people had to choose between the life they wanted and the life others wanted for them. He'd chosen. And he was learning to live with the consequences. The grand reopening was scheduled for a Saturday in October. They'd invited everyone, investors, artists, board members, random people who'd donated to the crowdfunding campaign. The ballroom had been transformed from a generic event space into something warmer, more personal. Local art on the walls, plants in the corners, furniture that invited conversation instead of just looking expensive. Clara stood in the middle of it all, wearing a dress that wasn't charcoal gray this time, watching Ethan give a speech about second chances and building something meaningful and the importance of taking risks. Lily was in the front row, wearing her princess costume because she'd refused to wear anything else. She waved at Clara every 30 seconds like they hadn't seen each other that morning. Emma appeared at Clara's elbow. "You did good, sis." "I didn't do anything. This was all Ethan." "Bullshit. You're the one who convinced him to take the risk. You're the one who came up with the crowdfunding idea. You're the one who—" Emma stopped. "You're happy. That's new." Clara looked at her sister. "Yeah, I am. Even with all the drama, the board meetings, and the disapproving mother-in-law and the constant pressure, even with that." Clara watched Ethan finish his speech, watched him search the crowd until he found her. "It's not perfect, but it's real. And I'll take real and complicated over easy and fake any day." Emma hugged her. "Dad would be proud of you." "I hope so." The speeches ended. Music started. Not a DJ playing top 40 hits, but a live pianist playing Bartók. The same piece Ethan had fumbled through on his living room piano 4 months ago. He'd hired a professional for tonight, someone who could actually do it justice. Ethan found Clara in the crowd, held out his hand. "Dance with me?" he asked. Clara thought about the last time he'd asked her that question. How she'd said no because she was too sad, too broken, too convinced she'd never feel anything again. "Yes," she said. They moved to the dance floor, not alone this time, surrounded by people and noise and the messy reality of building something together. It wasn't the fairy tale ending the articles would probably write about. It was better than that. It was true. Halfway through the song, Lily appeared and insisted on dancing too, standing on Ethan's shoes while Clara held her hands. They swayed together, this small, imperfect family built from grief and second chances and the stubborn decision to try. Later, after the guests left and the hotel staff started cleaning up, Clara found herself standing in the same spot where she'd sat alone at Emma's wedding. The 2 empty chairs were gone now, replaced by a table displaying artwork from the residency program. But she thought about them anyway, about her father and the lullaby and Marcus and all the versions of herself who'd believed she wasn't enough. "You okay?" Ethan asked, coming up behind her. "Yeah, just thinking." About how scared I was that night, how convinced I was that I'd never be happy again. Ethan wrapped his arms around her waist. And now? Clara leaned back against him, looking around at the space they'd created. Not perfect, not easy, but theirs. Now I'm not scared anymore, she said. And she meant it, because sometimes the best love stories aren't about finding someone perfect. They're about finding someone who's willing to sit with you in your sadness, who sees all your broken pieces and doesn't try to fix them, just holds them carefully while you figure out how to put yourself back together. Ethan had done that for her, and she'd done it for him. And together, with Lily's gap-toothed smile and her endless questions and her insistence that love should include glitter and dragons, they'd built something that looked nothing like what either of them had planned. It looked better. 3 months after the reopening, on a random Tuesday morning, Claire was working in her studio when Ethan knocked on the door. "You busy?" he asked. "Always, but for you, I can take a break." He came in, looking nervous in a way she hadn't seen since their first coffee date. In his hand was a small box. Claire's heart stopped. "Ethan, before you panic, this isn't a ring. I know we're not there yet." He opened the box. Inside was a key. "It's a key to the apartment. I mean, you already live there, but you've been using Lily's spare, and I thought—" He stopped. "I want you to have your own key, not a borrowed one. Your own." Clara took the key, her throat tight. "That's very practical. I'm terrible at romantic gestures." "No, it's perfect." She kissed him. "Thank you." "There's something else." Ethan pulled out his phone, showed her an email. "Lily's school is doing a family tree project. She asked if she could put your name on it, under the Important People section." Clara read the email twice, not trusting herself to speak. "You don't have to say yes," Ethan said quickly. "I know it's a lot, and we haven't really talked about what this means long term, but she asked, and I didn't want to tell her no without checking with you first." "Yes," Claire interrupted. "Yeah?" "Yeah, tell her yes." Ethan's entire face softened. He pulled her close, held her like she was something precious he'd almost lost. And maybe that's what love was. Not the fairy tale version with dramatic confessions and perfect timing, but the real version, with family tree projects and borrowed keys and the choice to show up every day even when it was hard. Claire had spent years believing she wasn't enough, that she needed to be fixed or changed or transformed into someone more deserving of love. But standing in her studio, in the building they'd saved together, holding a key to the life they were building, she finally understood the truth. She'd always been enough. She just needed to find someone who saw it. And she had.